Hey everyone, Brent Kelly here, Vice President of the Sitkins Group. Welcome to our workshop, How to 3X Your Agency's Growth in 2021 Without Adding Another Employee. Now, I first want to say this. This doesn't mean that you couldn't or shouldn't add another employee in 2021. That's certainly your perspective. But I am going to share with you today some philosophies, some principles, some key strategies that will help you unlock your agency's growth, to be able to use the team that you currently have in your agency to truly 3X. And I'm going to share examples and again, some strategies that you can begin to use today. Now, like any great question that we're asked, if you're ever asked a great question, the mind cannot refuse to give it an answer. And that's where this workshop came to be. Now, we've learned a lot this year. And I hope that all of you out there are happy, you're healthy, that you're sane. This has been a very interesting year is the word that I like to use. You might use a different word, but I use the word interesting. And we've learned a lot. I learned a lot. And this fall, we were asked a great question by an agency leader. And like I said, a great question can't be refused to, it can't be ignored. And the question was this. It said, why do some agencies have 3X the organic growth rate, right? Where some agencies may be 5 or 6%, which is kind of the national average out there. Some agencies are 15 to 20% in organic growth. Why do some agencies have super high retention rates and others are just doing okay? Why do some agencies have a positive, affirming culture, a culture of growth, while other agencies are really struggling to get all their team on the same page? And my initial answer to that question was things that we know that work, that we teach and we share all the time. Things like the fact that most agencies don't really have a true differentiated or unique selling process. They walk and talk like every other agency. I would say that most agencies struggle because they don't have future ideal client pipelines. They have suspects, they have prospects. They've never really talked about targeted strategy for future ideal clients. I think most agencies struggle because they don't have a true client experience or client retention program. We talk at Sitkins about a continuation process, not just a renewal. Most agencies don't have that. I believe that most agencies struggle because they don't truly have a culture and a cadence of accountability. Right? The people aren't doing what they said they were going to do. And those are absolutely true and things that we teach and talk about all the time. In fact, I'm going to share some ideas of that during today's workshop. But I think it goes a level deeper, right? It goes a little bit more than that. One of my absolute favorite books of all time is The One Thing book by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. And this book talks about what is the one thing, right? What is that leading indicator? In fact, what is that first domino? Right? If we can really get to the first domino, it can begin that chain reaction to knock down bigger and bigger dominoes. And if you've been through any of our programs, some of you have, you know that we ask the one thing question all the time to filter down to maximize your thinking, maximize your strategy, maximize your results. And so we ask ourselves that question at Sitkins, what's the one thing, right, that really solidifies everything that I just mentioned to help agencies get that growth? And here it is. The one thing that I truly believe when I'll be talking about today is the fact that most agencies have little to no development and training program for their most important and precious asset. What is it? It's their people, right? We kind of wing it and hope that our people get better, but we don't really have a true training and development program. And by the way, this is true across all industries. In fact, I've got some studies here to share with you that show this. There's a book out there called Training on Trial, and it said that only 15% of people have achieved sustained behavior change after development and training of any kind. Only 15%. That's behavior change. I'm going to talk today about transformation. Again, it's pretty sad that we see out there, but it's true. A report from Sales Performance Institute showed that 50% of the information, right, the content that we get to learn to be trained is forgotten in 5 weeks, and worse yet, 84% of it, almost all, is forgotten after 90 days, which led us to ask an important question at Sitkins. Why does training fail? Better yet, why does traditional training fail? Because I can tell you, and I'm going to share some examples and testimonials today. We've had some great success in working with our clients and attendees of various programs to have great success. So why do some things that we're doing work and other places simply aren't? They're struggling to gain traction. Why does traditional training fail? And that's going to be a big part of the workshop today, to understand how we can get training and development for our most important asset, our people, to work more effectively to get those 3X results that you're here for, that you want to talk about today. And that's the purpose. How to 3X your agency, again, in 2021 without adding another employee. And I'll tell you that my goal for you today, and this is a big goal, today I'm going to prove to you, I'm going to show to you that the only way to 3x your agency's growth in 2021 is by unlocking 3 keys. And I'm going to share these 3 keys with you as we go through the workshop today, but we've got to unlock these 3 keys. They have to work together. And by the way, the only way that I'm going to tell you at the end of this workshop that you can get it is a brand new model, a brand new philosophy, a brand new movement that's never been done in the insurance industry before. Cannot wait to tell you about that because it's going to be an absolute game changer. Now, before I get into all that, I do want to share a little bit about the backstory of Sitkins because it's important that you understand where we're coming from, our heart and our mission. Some of you have taken some training programs or been through different development programs with Sitkins. Others, maybe is the first time you've ever seen me or heard of Sitkins at all. So I want to make sure I give you some background. We believe in the ProFit experience. In fact, everything that we do is about professional fitness. Just like an athlete or a person needs physical fitness in different dimensions to grow and develop, agency professionals need professional fitness to become that best version possible. And there's 3 areas that I'm going to share with you that we work on all the time with agencies. Number 1 is this, it's clarity. Now, clarity is really based around 3 questions. Where are you today? Where do you want to go? And how are you going to get there? Right now, those questions seems pretty simple. Well, where are you today? So what are your current numbers? What are your current behaviors? What are your current strategies? Where do you really want to go? Where do you see your agency going? How are you going to get there? Now, those seems pretty just basic stuff, right? But here's the deal. If I ask most agencies those 3 questions, I'm going to get answers like, well, I kind of sort of think we're here. We kind of sort of want to go here. And we kind of think this is how we're going to do it, right? There isn't great clarity. And they struggle because of that. We help agencies with clarity. Secondly, is consistency. It's about the vital few, right? The vital few behaviors and strategies. One of the things that I hear from agencies all the time is we have to do this and we have to do this and we have to do this. The truth of it is you just need to focus. You need to filter down. I mentioned the one thing, maybe just the very few basic things for your agency to do at a high level to be consistent with. The last one is commitment. We've got to make a commitment to ourselves, a commitment to our agency team, a commitment to our clients, a commitment to our carriers, a commitment to our community to be that best version possible. To me, commitment obviously stems from accountability, but commitment is also about going all in, right? We got to go all in and make sure that, hey, this is going to be something we're really going to do. You know, the idea of putting your chips on the center of the table, or let's say you want to run a marathon. That's something you want to do, is telling people about it, signing up for the marathon, you know, paying the money, put it on Facebook. I don't care what it is you're doing, but you're making a commitment to say, I'm going all in. This is something important to me. And I thought in the spirit of the holiday season, and of course, as I'm speaking right now, here we are in the middle of the holiday season in 2020, I would share some examples of those people who put up lights who weren't really all in. They were just kind of dabbling here. So I don't want to pick on people, but here's some examples of someone said, you know, maybe this year, maybe we should go hang up some Christmas decorations outside. And they took a strand or 2 of lights and they threw it around and they said, good enough, right? Now I share that because a lot of agencies do that. You know, maybe we should kind of sort of do this, and they do it half-hearted. That's not all in. And guess what? You're not going to get great results from that. Now, who is all in, at least when it comes to Christmas lights? Maybe a crazy guy, but Clark Griswold, right? Clark went all in on his Christmas lights and had some struggles, but guess what? It turned out pretty well for Clark, at least when it comes to his Christmas lights. So I want to have a little fun there in the holiday season, but I do want to share with you a true story of an agency that did go all in. This is an agency in the Mid-South that we had an opportunity to work with, a great agency. You can see Roger Sitkins, the CEO here of Sitkins, leading the charge with the agency leaders. These are all their agency leaders. And we had a chance to spend some time at this agency and talk about a number of strategies and behaviors, things to make the agency more profitable, more successful. And the agency leader said this: there are a lot of things that we talked about that we can and we will eventually do. But for right now, we're going to focus on one thing. We're going to go all in on one specific strategy that was taught. And this was about rounding out and retaining and replicating your best clients. And we talked about specific strategies and ways of doing that. They put their hands in. They said, this is it. We're all in. We're going to be clear on this. We're going to be consistent with this. And we're going to commit to this. And here's the cool part. In 9 months, this was an agency that was kind of struggling along with 3% organic growth, right? Which honestly is kind of average out there, a little bit below average, but just pretty close to what's out there, the average organic growth rate. In 9 months, they 3x their organic growth rate by getting really clear, really consistent, and making a commitment in one key strategy, right? It really is the foundation to success. Now, I want to share just a little backstory before I dive into these three keys, just to kind of catch you up to speed of how we came up with some of these things. Now, I've already mentioned this has been a crazy year in 2020. Hopefully, things will be getting better. We'll see. We don't know what 2021 brings, but I can tell you this past March, we had our last in-person live event called ProFit Networking. This is our big event. We bring in agency leaders and professionals from across the country. We bring in some speakers. We do roundtable. Fantastic event. But as I traveled home that week after this event, I realized quickly the world has changed, right? In fact, that was the week that the world really did change, certainly in the United States, as things began to shut down. And I realized we were going to have to do some things differently to have the impact and the effect that we want to have for agencies and their growth. And so we came back after a few weeks of uncertainty, began to put together our first real entire virtual producer fit program. We've done some virtual things, but we went all in the virtual. We said, listen, we've got to deliver experience that's unique, that's impactful, and certainly still gets results. So we began to use technology like I'm using now. We did roundtable discussions, breakouts, live Q&A, and really began to reformat some things that we were doing. We weren't sure of what was going to happen, but learned very quickly in the spring, late spring and early summer, that this not only was effective and impactful, but much easier for agencies to be able to bring their team, be involved, and get great results. So after Producer Fit, our sales training program, we launched a service program. We then launched a sales leadership virtual program. We then launched an agency leader program. All of these, we learned a ton. We got tremendous feedback from our participants and continue to up-level the game, right? To make the experience something that's never been done before in the industry. And part of what we went through this is understanding what are truly the keys for agencies and these attendees of the agencies that go to the events to get results, right? To get these results they really want. And there were three things that stood out above all else. And this comes from 40 years of learning at Sitkins, not myself personally, but as an organization of all the things and working with thousands of different insurance professionals, hundreds and hundreds of agencies, and then taking this past year and learning all these things that we've done virtually in a new way, in a different capacity, at a higher level. These three keys must work together, right? They must be aligned, and they must all occur to truly unlock that 3x growth that we're talking about. And I'm going to go deep in each of these three areas, but first of all, just give you a quick overview. Number one is we have to move from this idea to really develop and train our people at the highest level to get 3x growth. We've got to move from just information. Here's some stuff to read, here's some stuff to learn, here's some stuff to think about, to true transformation. I'm going to talk in depth about what that means. What does transformation mean for your agency? Number two is we have to move away from an event mentality, right? This event, that event, to a true agency process. And finally, the third key that I'm going to speak about today is that we've got to move from just partial development, right? One person, one department, to really understanding our culture and working together, right, to make sure we're all headed in the same direction. So these are going to be the three keys that I'm going to talk about today. And now I want to go through each and every one of these in a little more depth. So number one, if you want to truly unlock 3x growth, right, in your agency, we've got to stop thinking so much about information and really move to transformation. Well, what's the difference? Well, information is power, but it's only potential power, right? There's so many things that you may have read or learned about, or again, I showed you studies, of different places of training. That's great information. It's really important, but until we can move it to transformation. And to me, there's two areas that I want to talk about today that I want you to think about as an agency leader, or whatever your role or capacity is, that you got to move our entire team to transformation. First of all, it's mindset, right? What are we thinking? How do we get our team to think bigger, eliminate some of the negative thinking, right? To really get that growth. So it starts with mindset. Number two is skill set. Right? It's one thing to have a mindset, but then we got to build the skills that are going to actually help us transform, right? Until we change our mind, until we change our skill set, it's just information that feels good. It makes us, oh, this is great, but we're not getting the true results that we want. Now, I was asked a great question just a few months ago in one of our sales training. This was a sales leader from a pretty large agency that said, okay, Brent, I've heard about your producer sales training program, Producer Fit. I've read some testimonials, great stuff from what I can hear, but what makes your program different? Because there are a lot of training programs out there, either in the industry, outside the industry, that are sales type of training programs. What makes yours different? And my initial answer was much like I said earlier about the 3X growth. It went into pipeline development, productivity. So we have to get producers actually out selling, time spent selling, this critical metric. We have to make sure that we're understanding our true points of differentiation, not being generic. We have to be personal accountable. So I went through all these things and I shared some testimonials, and that's generally what I talk about. But it hit me as I was going further in that conversation. I said, you know what? All the stuff that I shared with you and what we do and our program Producer Fit, it's all true. And again, I can share, hundreds of testimonials of producers who have upped their game dramatically. I said, but really, if we don't change or at least transform their thinking, their mindset, that it's going to lead into better behaviors, because belief drives behaviors. And then, of course, reinforce those behaviors. None of it really matters. Right. So for us at Sitkins, and for you as an agency leader, you got to think about, wait a second, it's not about the information. It's how do I really begin to change the way they're thinking and then begin to improve the habits, the behaviors that my team is going through. And here's why this never happens, or at least rarely happens, not as much as it should, is that we too often, and our team lives in this comfort zone. Right? The comfort zone, the things that we already know, the things that we've already done, the things that we've already experienced, which feel really comfortable. But here's the thing that you may want to write down. Nothing ever grows in your comfort zone. It just doesn't, right? It's comfortable, makes us feel good. And we all go to areas of the comfort zone. The trick is, will you get stuck, right? Will you get stuck? Because where the magic happens, there it is. Where the magic happens is outside of that. And to get outside the comfort zone, you have to address, what are my self-limiting beliefs, right? What are some things that I've been thinking that simply aren't true? What are my doubts, my fears, my concerns that I need to address honestly, right? So that I can get to where the magic really happens. And so that's something that we see all the time, is helping producers in this case, but really any team member, to start to think about, where are they comfortable? Why are they comfortable? And where do they really want to go? What are the things they have to face and address to get there? One of the best examples of this is an agency we love to work with, EHD Insurance in Pennsylvania. You can see EHD here, featured on the cover of Rough Notes magazine. This was December of 2019, so just about a year ago. Well-deserved. And this is an agency that's got great leadership. It has great tools. It has resources, integrity, credibility, but they were missing something. When they started working with us a few years ago, they realized that they had all this stuff, but they weren't going in the direction, or at least the speed they wanted to accelerate where their vision truly was. And we began to work with EHD on a lot of different things. But one of the things that really stuck out was when our very first time we had a conversation with them, we challenged them to think about this. They said, and this is for every person that was in the room, we said, what is your best version possible? I mean, you think about your best version. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What's the impact that it's going to have on the agency? What's the impact that it's going to have on your clients? What's the impact that it's going to have on yourself and your family if you truly understand your best version possible? We challenged them. We had them think. We had them write things down. So much so, I got to share this with you. Their leadership team, great leadership team, they're huge implementers, right? They actually created this mirror that went into every different office at EHD Insurance. It says this, and you can probably see it: is this your best version possible, right? And so it became this constant reminder that it wasn't about always comparing ourselves to all this stuff. It was about comparing ourselves within, looking in the mirror and saying, is this my best version possible? And guess what? This really inspired them to transform, to begin not just to think differently, but then to start to act differently. And I got to share this with you. You can see behind me, there's Roger Sitkins and myself. This is at the end of one of our programs we were doing with EHD. Basically every single person, almost every single person came up in that room and stuck an acronym. Now, we love acronyms at Sitkins, some of you know that, but stuck an acronym of what it meant and what they were doing and will be doing to transform based on this acronym, right? It's one thing to hear things. They're beginning to actually address it and start to talk about specifically what they were going to do. One of my favorites right here on the bottom, there's a lot of acronyms. I don't have time to to go through them all. But APR, absolute personal responsibility. All right, this is the foundation of everything. In fact, the top of the pinnacle of a pyramid, so to speak, for best version possible is absolute personal responsibility. That I'm going to be accountable to myself and to my team to do the things I said I was going to do. And that inspired true transformation. So much so that it wasn't just the transformation of ideas, it was the transformation of results. And I got to share with you here, talk about real results. This is the HD result in 2019. They earned $1.14 million in commission revenue on broker of record letters alone. $1.14 million on broker of record letters alone. Now, that wasn't all of their sales. They had a lot more sales than that, but that was just on BORs or AORs. Now, we don't teach at Sitkins just to sell on BORs or AORs. We believe that BORs and AORs come from a great process. It's a natural outcome of a great process is oftentimes you get BORs. And this is a big part of transformation and something that I want to share with you. And one of the things that EHD truly bought in. One of the transformations we have to have both in mindset and skill set is we have to transform from being a quoter or transactions, right? Quotes and transactions to risk advice and relationships, right? They really began to transform. We can't just be transactional. We're professionals, right? We can't just be quoters. We're professionals. We've got to be risk advisors and we got to build deeper relationships. And John Miles has a great quote here that hiring Sitkins, the best decision we've ever made to improve the performance of our sales force and our sales management group. After many years of trying to improve our sales velocity results on our own, there has been a noticeable positive change in the attitude, the language, and the behaviors. Now I want to focus here. This is why I love sharing this quote, because three things: attitude. What are your people thinking, right? What is their thought process today? We really do all start by how we think. So we're able to help change their attitude, how they thought. The language. What are your people in your agency saying today, right? If walls could talk right now, maybe it's their home walls now from remote offices, but what are people saying? What do they say about the agency? What do they say about their clients? What do they say about the philosophy? What is the language of the agency? And of course, lastly, is this behaviors. What are your people doing, right? It's one thing to talk a good game. What are we actually doing? And that truly is transformation. Now, you may be thinking, oh, Brent, this transformation stuff, it's a little bit phooey, right? You're giving me all this stuff about transformation versus information. Let me just give you a couple of very practical examples. I'm going to talk about sports. I'm going to talk about music, right? So maybe one of these two relate to you. But to me, I grew up playing sports my whole life, and I just couldn't imagine. Can you imagine at a high level, whether it's certainly high level high school, but definitely college and professional, that a team would be presented a playbook and maybe watch some game film, but they never actually went on the court, the field, the rink, and worked on skill development, right? So they had some of the ideas, the information, but they never actually went out and practiced. And it sounds crazy, but most agencies don't do this. Most agencies don't practice the skills that are most needed to get the results they want. Asking for referrals. Oh yeah, we should practice that, right? Understanding our 30-second commercial, how we present ourselves, or an executive briefing. Oh yeah, that would be great. Really being clear on our defined points of differentiation that aren't generic, that really say something, that change the conversation. Oh yeah, we should practice that. See, that's transformation. Same is true in music. Can you imagine just studying music theory or looking at a score sheet, but never actually putting your fingers to the keys or the guitar or whatever the case it may be to practice your skills? It seems insane, but most agencies, and I want you to think about your agency, how much does your agency today truly practice and improve the things they most need to be successful to get results, certainly 3x results? Here's the bottom line of this. Without a focus on transformation, if you're just focused on information, well, here's some stuff to give them because it's easy. But without really challenging your team to think differently and to change their skills and their habits, you are going to be in a constant state of frustration, right? Why aren't we growing? Why aren't we getting 3x results? Why aren't we doing some of these things? Because we're not transforming. We're just doing some method of informing. So that's key number one, transformation. Brings me to key number two, an event versus process. And maybe you feel like this little guy, right? You take the first step in something, and after that first step, you simply sit down, turn around, maybe you get tired, maybe you walk back down the step you just came from. That's that idea of an event versus process, right? Process is long and deep, but effective. An event makes us feel good sometimes, but we don't always know why, okay? And it doesn't really help us change and get the results that we want. Here's something I want you to write down. Most of us vastly overestimate the power of an event. Oh, I went to this event, I attended this, I did this. We vastly underestimate the power of a process. And that's just key number two. That reminds me of one of my favorite illustrations that I hear on success, much like an event versus a process. See, most people think that an event is kind of like the success line. Go to an event, suddenly my life is fixed, we're improved. You know, I did this thing, everything's going to be fine now. But we have no process around it. We know what success really looks like is we start something and we fail, we move and we learn and we go up and down and side to side and in and out and all those kind of things, right? Eventually, we get to the point we want to, but it takes a while because it truly is a process. Now, maybe you feel like this guy or felt like this guy or someone on your team has felt like this guy, or you've gone to an event, right? And whether it's an hour event, a 2-hour event, a half day, a full day, 2-day event, I don't care what it is. And you got all this information, all these sticky notes, so to speak, right? Maybe in a binder. Only to come back and maybe you had a producer or a service person or someone go to an event and they have all this information, but yet it all goes into a drawer, right? Never to be heard from or seen again. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. And it's very frustrating, right? Remember what I shared earlier on those studies that just after 5 weeks, over half the information is lost. After 90 days, 84% of the information of life. Against madness, frustration. So I want to share something with you that is really powerful to me. I'm surely powerful to you. You really have two choices. You can have regrets, woulda, shoulda, coulda, or you can go out and make re-greats. And I'll talk about that in just a second. There's a really great thought process from a leadership expert, also Pastor Andy Stanley, who said this: there are those that hear and there are those that do, right? And those that hear and never do live a life of regrets, right? They have the potential, they have the information, as I mentioned, right? They go to an event, but they never apply it. They never apply it into a process. And therefore they have regrets. They look back at the end of the year, at the end of their life and say, oh, what is this? In fact, one of the most powerful things ever said to me, this may seem a little bit brutal, but it's true, is the definition of hell on earth. And the definition of hell on earth is this: when we get to the end of our life, we meet the person that we could have become, right? That's hell on earth. And so you have a choice to have regrets. And by the way, we all deal with this. We have to think about this. And we're going to think about where you're having regrets versus regrets. What are regrets? Well, I heard this from Roger Sitkins in one of our trainings. I love this. He said, we have regrets or regrets. Regrets are things that we didn't do that we should have. Regrets are those small victories, those small wins, those things that become part of a process that we replicate. I did this really well this week and learned from it. Let's do it again, right? In fact, let's make it better, but let's keep doing the same things that are working while we eliminate the things that aren't working. Those are regrets. And when you do that, it's extremely powerful. See, whether it's working with $1 million producer or a best practice agency, some of the examples I'm going to share with you, it really comes down to this quote from John Maxwell. I love John Maxwell's leadership training. He says, small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements gained slowly over time. See, one of the things that agencies have a struggle with is we're all human beings. We live in a microwave society. I want it now, now, now. And we can get better results. I shared with you the one agency that 9 months tripled. But this idea that consistency doesn't happen overnight is why many of us quit. But here's the deal. These small victories you get, they don't have to be huge. These small victories create momentum. And there isn't much more powerful than the big mo, right? The big momentum. When you have it on your side as an agency, you can do great things. Now, why do I have a picture of a steam engine here? Well, it works the same for a steam engine, this powerful locomotive, the steam engine locomotive. If it's just sitting on the track with no momentum, right? No regrets, just regrets, you could put a brick in front of that steam engine and it won't move. Stuck, no momentum. Yet you give that same steam engine locomotive a little bit of momentum, a few wins, a little consistency, right? Just like your agency, starting to get some of those regrades, that same steam engine locomotive that was stopped by one brick can now blast through an entire building made of, guess what? Bricks. Right? That's the power of momentum for you and your agency. See, events often feel like this fire hose mentality, right? You get blasted with all this stuff at an event, and it can be great stuff, and you're taking a bunch of notes, but you end up leaving the event. Maybe you're really wet, your face stings a little bit, but then quickly you dry off and you go back to the same things you were doing. And so we believe in this philosophy of going deep. And it really stems from an iceberg analogy. So some of you have heard this idea or understand the power of an iceberg or what that means, but an iceberg is only 10% visible, only 10% above the waterline. The rest of the iceberg is all below the waterline, right? That's where all that magic happens I talked about in the comfort zone. But most agencies just swim around at the top on the surface, right? And they just have hysterical activity. We use the term they're quoters and floaters. They quote and float. The great agencies understand this. To be great, we've got to go deep. In fact, DEEP stands for, it's an acronym. We have at Sitkins, one more acronym at Sitkins, but delivering excellence in every process. That's going deep. And I want you to start to think about yourself and your agency. Where are you or where have you not gone deep in some of the most important processes for your agency, whether it be a unique selling system, whether it be future ideal client pipelines, whether it be really having a true client experience to raise your retention and to earn more referrals. That's going deep. But again, most agencies, unfortunately, will just swim around in the shallow area and not go deep enough and wonder why they're not getting the results they really could and should get. So I want to share an example, just 3 areas of an agency that we currently work with, great agency getting great results in the Southeast. 3 areas we started working with them a few years ago that they committed to going deep. And this has been an ongoing process for sure. They'd be the first to tell you it didn't happen overnight and it's been challenging, but it's been well worth it. Number 1 was the client experience, right? We've got to understand the client experience from sales and service and have them communicate. Future ideal clients only. We're going to stop talking about prospects and suspects, but future ideal clients and have a plan around that. And lastly is to really begin to generate a true selling system that's differentiated in the marketplace. And I got to share this with you because it's so simple and so visible, but it's also been so powerful. Now, this is a pretty good size agency. This isn't an unsophisticated agency. So when you see the cork board here and the 3x5 cards, don't think, oh, this is some little small agency that did this. No, this was a pretty good size agency. But what this agency committed to and to have a process around is to go deep in one of those areas that I mentioned, future ideal client pipeline. So I want to share one story just to share the story with you. And then, of course, the success around it. So future ideal client pipelines. We realized that most agencies, and this agency was included, that just had some names and some prospects and suspects. But if we want to be successful, we want to be able to tell our story better, we want to have greater depth, we have to really understand who these future ideal clients are and create a targeted strategy plan around it. So this is just the simplistic visual part. We also had sheets and things we worked through, but I started talking with an agency about what if we put something very visible. Now, of course, this is different now, but we did this a year or so ago, visible on a cork board. In fact, that's what they decided to use, and just take 3x5 index cards that you can see here and write the names. The producers wrote down their top future ideal clients. And then we actually created a star chart like you would in elementary school. First appointment gets a star, second appointment gets a star, presenting the quote gets a star, and of course, writing the account, you get 4 stars. It gets moved to the written board. And we did this and got really focused on it, right? We gave them some more strategies around it. They executed at a very high level. And the results show. Obviously, you see them here on my screen. In that year, they wrote $750,000 of new commission revenue, not premium, commission revenue. And this wasn't all their sales, but I want to share the biggest story of them all. $750,000 of new commission just by using a top 100, a future ideal client list. In this case, the most simplistic and visible thing you could do, a corkboard with 3x5 index cards. And by the way, they also increased their organic growth rate by 29%, right? Real results. Why? They stopped flapping around in the shallow end and doing everything and doing the things that all other agencies do and just getting by. They went deep in one critical area and it generated a huge results for the agency. A big part of this is this idea, this methodology of process that I want to share with you is we've got to begin to move from a fire hose, right? All that information, whatever it may be, ultimately to a garden hose. And then at the end, we want it to be like this, a timed sprinkler, right? Where we've been able to go deep in a certain area, go deeper in a process, and then water our team, water the ideas on an ongoing basis as needed. Last thing I'll share with you on key number 2, event versus process. I just want to ask you a question. Think about this. Hopefully I've maybe made you think a little deeper on certain areas of where are you just having events, whether it's internal, external events of some kind for your team to get better. And where and what is your specific process of growth and development? Because if you don't have one, you're going to be like this little guy. You're going to take a step and you're going to get excited and then you're going to fall back. And here's the thing that I want to share with you. If you are a agency leader, and many agency leaders are like this, many producers are like this, I'm like this to a degree, that we get really excited about the new idea of the week, the new idea of the month, the flavor, whatever it is, the flavor of the month. And we don't ever execute, implement in a process. It's a good idea and it goes away. Your team, your entire team, after you walk out of the room, right? Here's a new idea. We're going to do this. It's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then you said this before and never executed. They're all looking at each other after you leave and they do this. Don't worry. This too shall pass, right? They know it's never going to happen. Don't worry, guys and gals. We can go back to the same bad habits and behaviors as always, and we'll be fine. He'll or she'll forget, right? So important to really engage in a true process, which leads me to key number three. Key number three, if you're taking notes here, it's the fact that we focus too much on part of the agency versus the whole agency. Right? Maybe the squeaky wheel gets the grease, or maybe we just like this department better. I don't care what it is, but one person or one department or one area gets development and training, and the rest of it is like, you guys will all figure it out and we'll be fine together. And it creates this incredible tug of war. Maybe you've experienced this before. We see this in some of our programs too. We have producers, for example, who go to one of our programs and they get excited. They can't wait to do this. And guess what? Leadership doesn't buy in. Their service team doesn't buy in. Maybe service teams are trying to get better, and leadership says, we don't do it that way. And we've all the tug of wars that we see. And we see tug of wars between service and leadership. We see between sales and leadership. The greatest tug of war that we see that's most common is a tug of war or a challenge or a disagreement between sales and service. In fact, most agencies do not have high performance teams. It's one of the strategies we teach in depth with agencies. If you've got to talk about having a high performance team, salespeople do what they do best and they're accountable for it. Service team members do what they do best and they're accountable for it, so that we can be a high performance team, not a high maintenance team. And I would just ask yourself right now in your agency, do you truly have a team, sales and service? And this could be other areas as well, but sales and service where you truly have a high performance team, or is it constant maintenance? In fact, most sales and service, not only do they not align or don't agree, they have conflict. They fight against each other. Right? One of the things that I hear all the time from service people is the fact that it's in some cases is that they don't often even want their sales team to succeed. And maybe they don't say that out loud, but here's why. Because number one, they're frustrated with how they're communicated with, if at all. And number two is they feel like if they get a new account, guess what? It's more work versus we're going somewhere together. So we've got to have this common goal together, right? But different roles. Common goal, different roles. It's like putting the piece of the puzzle together. We have a lot of ideas to share. One of the things that agencies struggle with is why can't we get our team and different members of our team to buy in to something we're trying to do? Well, first of all, we have to be open to share ideas from all different departments and listen and learn. It doesn't mean we're going to agree on everything, but we have to align, right? Maybe you write that down. We don't have to agree, but we must align. It's like trying to row a boat and you got three people going one direction and one person rowing the opposite direction. Constant friction. We've got to work with the entire team to get buy-in. One of my favorite examples of this agency we work with, another cover of Rough Notes magazine. This was just June of 2020. You can see Eric Loesch and Hill Shaw here, two of the principals on the cover, and their entire team here behind me featured in Rough Notes magazine. And one of the things that they were struggling with is getting all their team on the same page to buy in. Like many agencies, hard workers, good people, good products, all those kind of things. Yet as a smaller agency and they kept growing and growing, they hit a plateau, they hit a wall because they realized that it became really difficult to communicate their own purpose and mission alone, right? They had to get a team buy-in and support to do this. And they worked really hard. In fact, one of the things that we challenged them in and helped them with right away was to create a one-page business plan. Because here's what I believe. If you have a hard time, right, getting your team on one page, maybe your plan should be on one page, right? Too often we make it too complicated. So what if we could just have a one-page business plan summary with a mission and a vision and the critical success factors and the KPIs that we're all gonna, as a team, keep score upon and get focused on our most important areas. And that's what they did. We created a one-page business plan with their team. And guess what? they began to align in key areas. They didn't always agree, wasn't perfect, but they made substantial progress. In fact, their numbers are pretty incredible. The year that we started this, they were at 5.5% organic growth rate. Again, pretty normal out there, doing okay. In 1 year, by getting their team aligned and getting focused on the key behaviors and strategies, they jumped that growth to 13.1%, almost 3 times in 1 year. This past year, even in the middle of a pandemic with COVID, as we're all dealing with, they're still at 13.9%, almost at 14. In fact, I know these two guys have told me we'd be way bad. We'd be 3x easy past that if we didn't have COVID. But still, from 5.5 to 13.9 in a couple years, extremely powerful. Why? There's something magical about getting buy-in with your team. By the way, it makes the process, it makes your days, your weeks a lot more fun at the agency when we're beginning to communicate on the same page. Now, you may be thinking this, Brent, that's great. That's the pie in the sky. I've got all these different personalities. In fact, when I try to communicate as a leader or try to share something, it's like Charlie Brown, when the teacher used to talk. If you remember this cartoon, and all the kids would hear is this, wah, 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 right? You're trying to communicate and you're struggling. It reminds me of being a parent. Okay. Now I'm a parent of 5 kiddos, very blessed. My oldest daughter is 17. But when we first started aligning on some things, it was basketball. We shared the love of basketball. And so at a very early age, I began coaching with her and talking about basketball. We go out in the driveway and play. When she got into junior high, though, she got her own personality and grew up, and dad wasn't so smart anymore. And even though I've had success in basketball at different levels, I was just trying to share with her some very basic things. In fact, I remember one day we're out in the driveway like this, and I was working on her shooting form, how to keep her elbow in and get her feet squared up and all that basic stuff. And she would say things like this, "Yeah, Dad, I know. Yeah, Dad, I know." And even though I was sharing important information that was going to help her, she just wouldn't buy in because it was just dad. Yet a couple weeks later, my neighbor came over who happens to be a basketball coach. And we were just having a conversation. He started showing her about the same thing that I showed her. And wouldn't you know it, instead of saying, "Oh, yeah," she'd say, "Oh, like this? You mean we do this? Oh, that's great. I love this." And I was excited for her because they did actually go ahead and they won the regional championship that year. And again, it was a team effort, but her improvements came a long way as part of that. But here's why I share this story with you. As an agency leader, don't make it so hard, right? It is a challenge to get your team to buy in. There is no doubt, right? To get everyone rowing in the same direction. So use peers, use mentors, use coaches to help you facilitate the buy-in. That's one of the things that we do at a very high level at Sitkins, is that we help agencies get their team to buy in by hearing a different voice, a different way presented, and aligning with you as the leader so we're walking together. So here's the summary. I've shared the 3 keys with you to unlock your agency's growth. Number 1, I share with you this idea that it's not just information, but transformation. So I want you just to think about in your agency again, what are your people talking about? What are they thinking about? And what are they doing? Are they really transforming? Are they getting better every day and every week? What if your team got 1% better a week, by the way? 1% better a week. In 1 year, taking 2 weeks off for vacation, so 2 weeks we don't do any betterment, you're still 50% better as a team. Just think about that for a second. Transformation is critical. Secondly, is a process. To do that, we've got to have a process, right? Not an event, but a process for an agency of where are we going in this? What's the long-term plan? And how do we execute that? And third is we've got to have the entire team, right? It's got to be the entire team working together. Not that we're always going to agree, right? We're going to have discussions and disagreements, but we've got to align. What is the goal and how are we going to get there together as a team, right? So we feel heard and we truly get the results that we want. So these are the 3 keys. Now I told you at the beginning that I was going to prove to you that these 3 ways are really the only way to unlock your agency's growth. And I believe that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. We've seen all the agencies. I've already shared 3 or 4 examples with you. These 3 keys were always in place. And I also shared with you that I was going to show you a new model that's never been done before to be able to put these 3 keys together to make it easy for you as an agency to facilitate that 3x growth that you desire. Maybe more than 3x growth, whatever it is for you to grow in your sales and your retention and your profitability. These 3 keys have to be together. And using 40 years of experience at Sitkins, I've already mentioned hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of agencies, thousands of insurance professionals. And looking back in the past year of what we've done in technology, we're finally able to do something we've never been able to do before at the highest level. And I want to share that with you today, right now. What this is going to do is going to totally change the industry. And I'm going to say this: if you're ready, I'm going to describe to you AIM, the all-inclusive model to ultimately have your agency have tremendous growth, right? Tremendous growth. So let me just share what this is, the all-inclusive model. Where did it come from? What is it? Well, the name pretty much says it all. We're going to have all of our programs and our resources and our tools together that is all inclusive. One of the things that I believe in is, and Roger mentioned this too, is that, you go to a resort and you already pay all this money and you get nickel and dime, all this stuff. We want to give you all of our experience, all of our tools, all of our learning is something that your agency is going to pay just one monthly fee to be part of. And I'm going to share the pricing in a minute, which is going to blow your minds, but give you everything that we have in an all-inclusive model that you can unlock those three keys: transformation, process, and of course, your entire team being involved. Well, at the center of all-inclusive model is our 4 programs. We have 4 core programs that we've been teaching and training on for years. This past year, all virtual with high-level success, and I'll share some of those with you. The first one is our Producer Fit program. This is our sales training for producers. This is our most popular program. We have more attendees come to this than anything else. Why? Because it works. And now we're going to be able to deliver this as part of an all-inclusive program for you and your entire agency. And I'll just tell a little bit about the structure of this program and others, is the fact that these are ongoing virtual events where we're going to have live Q&A with Roger and myself. We're going to have live interactive training. We're going to have small breakout rooms for your agency. And this is going to be over the course of 8 sessions, which, by the way, you can go back and do it again. If a new person comes on your team, you can do it again. One thing that we see is, well, now I've got a new person, or I've got this, or you know what? We have people that come back to our programs all the time because they want reinforcement. All inclusive and unlimited producer sales training. I just want to share a few examples and testimonials from just this year. And I can give you hundreds of testimonials from our in-person producer camp, but I want to share with you just our virtual producer camp, because at the beginning we talked about this. How do we deliver a virtual program that's not only fun, that's not only engaging, but it's got to be impactful. We've got to get results. And so I want to share 3 of these with you. Brad Abramson said this: I've been through a lot of training courses. This course stands apart from the rest for many reasons, but I believe the number one reason is the concept of self-focus. Remember, I mentioned earlier about transformation, specifically mindset. It's a core component of the sales process. This is an area that many of us are working on, and Roger and Brent's real life examples help immeasurably. I appreciate how deep we go in the training. I'm able to apply it to my day-to-day life in real time. Right? It's really what it's about. It's about mindset and skill set shift. Joseph Bustos, who attended this summer one of our virtual producer programs. Overall, the experience was bar none the best program I have ever attended. It's been a great roadmap to become the best version possible. So you're starting to see some of those themes, this roadmap of how do I become my best version possible. And one more testimonial, Erica Fettig, who just attended one we just finished about a week and a half ago, our final virtual producer fit for 2019. She said this class made me look back on my last 15 years and what I've been taught over those years. There are a lot of things that I'm going to get back to doing. One of the biggest things is the weekly debriefing and setting up my schedule for the upcoming week. With having the kids at home, maybe that's you, right? My schedule is key, right? We know that this has really been a difficult year. We know there's still going to be some challenges to that, to be able to maximize your time and value. It was really interesting. We do surveys on every one of our programs. We want to hear how to make our programs better. Even if we're getting 9s, how do we make it a 10? And this producer fit, which is virtual, and we have done aspects of virtual, but not in this way. Our average rating was 9.12 last year from all the producers. And by the way, over 150 producers attended in 2019. So that program, all included, unlimited for you and your agency, number one. Number 2 is our AmFit. Now, this is our service training. I mentioned before about having high performance teams, not high maintenance teams, high performance teams. So we want the account managers, the service team, to understand some of the key philosophies and principles to help them be appreciated. That's one of the things that we see all the time is why do the producers get all the training and help, and why are we stuck over here doing whatever? And so we want to provide something for the account managers to really help them think about their behaviors and their habits and how they can fit their better role, how they can better educate and hold their producers accountable, which they love that part of it, and help them be more productive in their day-to-day training. So the account manager program is a 6-session program for all of our account managers. Again, interactive sessions, breakouts, Q&A live at the end, all part of our service training. I want to share just a couple testimonials from this year, our virtual account manager program. Heidi W. Heidi, I always struggle with your last name, so I'm just going to keep it W since I'm on camera here. Said this: I've taken similar programs, but before, but something was different about AmFit, Account Manager Fit at the very end. Where am I today? Where do I want to go? And how do I get there? This changed my focus to not my individual work or colleagues. She's also a manager, but to management and what is working and what's not working and what I expect out of them, especially with procedural standards, training, and education. So great feedback from Heidi. Debbie Poe just kept it short and sweet. I love it. I love the format, the ideas, and the discussion. Meeting format is perfect. I said, we know that virtual is different, but if we can do it in a way that's never been done before, using technology like this, being interactive, having roundtables, asking the right questions, getting people involved, writing things down, we know that we can make this impactful for you and your entire agency team. So producer training, account manager or service training. We also have our CRO training, our sales leadership. Now, CRO stands for Chief Revenue Officer, sometimes known as the Chief Reminding Officer, but a sales leader. Now, maybe you are the sales leader for your agency. Maybe you have someone on your team who's designated for that. Maybe you have a producer who's a player coach, right? They produce and they are the sales leader de facto of their team. Or maybe you don't have that role established yet, but you know you need a sales leader. Here's what I can tell you. One of the biggest reasons producers don't get the results they should is they're not held accountable, right? There's not someone there saying, listen, I want to encourage you because I see potential and things in you. And I also want to challenge you, right? When you're not doing the things you said you were going to do. And we provide in the CRO Fit program tools and resources to help you as a sales leader to encourage and motivate your team at a higher level, to run weekly sales meetings with purpose, to help your producers get better. And by the way, give you performance agreements that they report to you to help make your life easier and more impactful as a sales leader. We want to help coach the coach in this scenario as a sales leadership program. Bob Miller, one of the sales leaders at EHD, I already mentioned EHD. Thank you, Roger and Brent, for the great training. Your sessions get me motivated to sell and lead my teams better. Please also thank you for your team for delivering good presentations. Again, we've got a great team ourselves. We teach great teams. We have a great team. I do want to share just a few things that he talked about because we asked, well, Bob, what's most impactful? He said the reverse management process. I briefly mentioned this. But reverse performance management is the fact that we get our producers, our sales team, to report up to the sales managers versus the other way around. And we have a process that we teach you and show you how to do this. It creates great impact, great results, also makes sales leaders' lives so much easier, allows them to do what they really want to do, which is coach and mentor. Number two, breakout rooms with my people. We talk with people in other areas of the country. This was very good. I mentioned the fact that breakout rooms. How great is it to go through a program where it's not just you and the teacher, the trainer, the coach, but you also get ongoing dialogue with other people that are facing the same challenges that you are across the country to learn what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, how we can help improve each other. I'm a big believer in masterminds. I love masterminds. We have mastermind concepts built in throughout all of our programs. I had a mentor say to me when I was attending a mastermind, he said, Brent, what's the power, what's the value of one great idea? What's the value of one great idea? And that's what we want to do, is be able to brain share with you and your team as you go through our program. So sales, service, sales leadership. The last part of this is our CEO bootcamp for all agency leaders to help set the strategy, the vision, the KPIs, the financial model. Right? You set the tone. Leaders lead. I mentioned John Maxwell earlier. My favorite John Maxwell quotes is this: everything rises and falls on leadership. That may seem like a lot of pressure. Everything rises and falls on leadership, but ultimately you are the lid on your agency. We want to help agency leaders in our CEO bootcamp to understand the basic foundational things of agency leadership. Everything from some tactical things to some strategies and vision that you can have to share with your agency where they go, okay, I like this person and we're going with them, right? How important is that? And we're going to talk about that in our CEO bootcamp. Tanya, she had attended our CEO bootcamp this fall. I love this. I think this bootcamp should be used from the majority of our office so they can hear it from someone other than just the leaders. Now, I didn't mention that earlier, right? It's about getting buy-in from your entire team. So we obviously have the bootcamp, but then our programs around the bootcamp are going to help support what you're learning to make it easier for you to transfer, right, this information. So not information, but transformation. Vince Lemma. This program was great, really opened my eyes to parts of the business we have been ignoring. It also provides a real strategic view in how to improve the agency and how to go to the next level. All right, so it's all about getting your agency to the next level. So those are all four of the programs that I mentioned: sales, service, sales leadership, and leadership. And here's the thing, we're going to provide you a roadmap to go through this. You're going to have all the event dates. And by the way, I don't want to confuse you or make this complex by any means. And we're going to give you all the foundational tools to do that as part of this all-inclusive model. You may want to attend all the programs that come up first. You may want to wait on some of the programs. That's up to you. We're going to provide you a roadmap. You get to choose how you want to go about that. We're going to make it as easy as possible for you, because the two things that we hear every time of why people don't do some of the things. And I shared with you, I've already shared with you, I think 4 or 5 examples of agencies, plus testimonials from individuals of real results. I mean, we get so excited when we see these real results from these agencies and attendees. And I go, why don't more people do this? I don't understand like why you wouldn't, when you have a guaranteed investment that's going to work for you, why you wouldn't do it. Well, it's two things. It's time and money, right? There's that fear of, well, is this the best use of my time? That's a fair question. I can tell you with these virtual programs, it makes it even easier, even more of a no-brainer, so to speak, because now you can attend any of these from your office or your home as needed. There's no more travel, right? No more travel time. You're gone for a week here and a week there. And on top of that is the money, of course. No more hotels, no more food expenses, no more plane tickets, all that stuff. And I love in-person events, right? And we're going to have some of those, but this all-inclusive model is to allow every member of your agency to engage in the process and be transformed by getting the best value on your money. Warren Buffett says the best, and he's done okay in his life, Warren Buffett. He said, what's the best investment you can make? And that's an investment in yourself, right? And I would say the second best is the investment in your team, right? This gives us a great opportunity to do that. So what does the cost structure look like? And they were asking, well, you're talking about these programs and how it works, but what's the cost structure look like? Well, all 4 of these programs that I just mentioned, sales, sales leadership, service, and agency leadership, are all part of programs that you can join this year, a la carte, right? You could still go through the 6-week or the 8-week programs, and you will get 10x plus value on. We see it all the time, right? To give you an idea, and this is for your own agency, maybe just kind of think about in your own mind, write down a piece of paper. How many people do I have now that would go to sales and the service and would go to sales leadership and agency leadership? The sample I gave you is pretty simple. There's 5, 3, 3, and 1. So you have 5, let's say you had 5 salespeople, you had 2 sales leaders, you had 10 service people, and you had 1 agency leader. That would cost you $12,500 to go to all those programs. And again, you would get 10x plus of your investment. We see it all the time. Well, with AIM, those are all included, right? Every one of those are included with your monthly fee. And again, I'll tell you in a minute what it's going to be. Hang on here. But I do want to share with you what else we want to provide to you, because we realize that the programs are critical, right? Those are the core foundation, these 4 programs. And, that'll do so much for you and your agency. But we also wanted to give you access to our tools and our resources that we have. And I mentioned that we have 40 years of experience in this business. We have a lot of tools, a lot of resources, a lot of things that we want to help and share with you and your agency. So this is just some examples of a few of the hundreds of tools and resources that we have. And we want to make sure that if there's something you or your agency needs, right, more documentation, more information, a tool or resource that's going to help expedite you, that we give you full access to that. We're also going to provide you the Better Way agency. Now, I'm not going to go deep into this, but if your agency does a lot of personal lines and small commercial, this is just an added benefit. We have a number of video modules and resources for personal lines and small commercial to help you accelerate even further, again, included with the all-inclusive model. So here's the bottom line. Trial and error, it takes too long. Like, eventually, you'll get to some success if you do trial and error. But it takes so long. And we kept looking at it, and I was talking to Rogers, like, how do I take all the information, all the success stories that I've had, all the stupid things that we've done, all the stupid things the agencies do, right? We all make mistakes, and to expedite that, right? To make the try go right into success a lot quicker. And that's what we're doing with our tools and resources. So again, to recap what's part of the all-inclusive model, all 4 of these programs, and again, just do a quick synopsis of your agency. What does it look like for you? The tools and resources, we don't include these anywhere else, right? This is just part of what it is. And of course, the Better Way agency program that you can buy separately at $2,400 a year. Again, these are all included. So I've talked about the 4 programs. I've talked about tools and resources. We also want to provide something to you and your entire agency on a regular basis. At the key of this is the monthly sales meeting. So every single month, we are going to run a sales meeting, a live sales meeting for your entire agency sales team. Myself or Roger are going to run it. We're going to reinforce some of the behaviors and strategies. We're going to have more interaction, more roundtables, maybe do a little practice to get better. Right? So that's going to be part of it. As an addition, and there's nothing on the screen here yet on this, we're also going to do a monthly leadership forum. So allow you as an agency leader to come in and have a leadership forum and do some mastermind with other leaders, as well as a service forum for your service leaders and service personnel. So that's going to be every month. We want it to be this time sprinkler. So every month you're getting more and more new information, more and more ideas to continue to grow and develop as part of that process. One of the best examples of an agency that gets the power of process and gets the monthly time sprinkler is Specialty Risk Insurance in Missouri. Great agency, focuses on ag. You might be able to tell that with Kevin's cowboy hat there, but a fantastic agency. We began to work deeper with them, more personal with them in 2017, and their results are incredible, right? They really are. First year after working with them, their sales growth rate went to 35%, right? 35% after the first year. The second year, they're at 33%, right? So still incredible growth. And this year, when I got their numbers, which is a few weeks ago, so still about 6 weeks about to go in the year when I got the numbers, they're at 15%, which is still 3x the national average during the middle of a pandemic. And they'll be a little higher than that when they go through it. So this continual process, never ending learning and growth. And by the way, there are rough notes cover as well. Why? Because they've earned it, right? They've earned it. It's about the steam engine approach, the locomotive. Remember that constant momentum. We've got to have momentum. And we also need to go deeper and not a bunch of stuff, just the vital few areas that are most important. So all 4 of the programs are part of the all-inclusive model. The tools and resources are included, the Better Way and the monthly forums, the sales meeting, leadership, and service all included. One last thing before I reveal what this is going to be, the investment for your agency, which you're going to be blown away, all right, when you see this, is this, a community forum. No agency that I've worked with, right, does it by themselves. We all need others to encourage us, to challenge us, to motivate us, to set us on the right path. If we get maybe off for a second, we've got to pull each other up. And in fact, I mentioned Gary Keller earlier from the One Thing book. He has that great quote, "No one succeeds alone." No one. And by the way, Gary Keller is also the founder of Keller Williams Realty, which is the largest real estate company in the world, right? So he knows a thing or two about success, and he understands that success needs other people. We need a community to help support us. So we're going to give you an online portal to be able to interact and share with other members that are going through this program. We've also developed this year, as part of our never-ending growth, an application that you can get on iPhone or Android, that any program you go through, you're going to have all the dashboard, all the sessions, the wall, so you can communicate and talk. We have little games. We gamify things to make it fun for all the attendees. We keep you up to date. So you want to use technology in your hand to get the best results possible. So that's all part of that growing community. So last thing, what is all part of it? Say, what is the all-inclusive model? What is the movement that we're seeing agencies go through? Well, it's going to be around these 4 programs: sales leadership, service, and agency leadership, I mentioned. All the tools and resources, the Better Way program included, our monthly forums in those 3 areas, and our peer community and app, all included. So what's the value of all this? Well, I know each agency is different, right? Your agency may have hundreds of people that are watching this. You may have a couple people, right? We get the variance there. But I want you to think about, what's the value to you and your agency? What would it be worth to have all that investment and all those tools and resources? Well, this starts, and this is not a typo, okay? This starts at $497 a month. $497 a month for everything that I just shared with you. And of course, you just go to sitkins.com/AIM. Now, a couple things I need to note here. We have different tiers, and I'm going to share this with you just in a minute. But any agency that's less than $3 million in revenue, that's a lot of agencies that are watching this right now. But if you're less than $3 million, it's $497 a month, access to everything that I just shared with you. Now, here's the catch, so to speak. You say, what's the catch? Well, there isn't really a catch, but there is a level of urgency. We're only going to do this pricing for the first 100 agencies. And this has been launched. This is out there. We're going to continue to market this. This live workshop had 500 people attend it initially, or sign up for it, and we continue to share that. So $497 a month is going to be for the first 100 agencies. Okay, here's the tiering model that I share with you. Depending on your agency size, over or under 3 million, again, $497 a month. 3 to 5 million, $997 a month. 5 to 10 million is $1497 a month, and over 10 million is $1997 a month. Incredible value. In fact, when we were talking about price points, we were putting this all together, and what we've charged in the past and what we feel is certainly valuable to agencies. For the lowest tier, we were going to charge that. In fact, we had a lot of other professionals and then we work with that said, listen, $497 a month is crazy. We don't want to devalue what we provide, but we also know this has been a really tough year for agencies. Right? We know it's been a tough year for everybody in this industry. And so we want to do something we really can give back to the agency world, to share some things, to have agencies be part of a movement that they're proud of, that they're excited about, that they're getting their team on the same page, they're seeing transformation, and ultimately they're seeing those 3X results. So just a few things. First 100 only. All right, first 100, the price will go up significantly, okay, after the first 100. So if you're thinking about this, just know that after 100, it's going to go up. It's also 100% guaranteed. We believe in every single thing that we do. Right? There's an absolute guarantee on this program. If you get into the program and you're a few months in and you go, okay, it's not what we thought it was, and you've actually gone to the programs, we'll give you your money back. No questions asked, right? I don't think that's ever going to be a problem, but that's our guarantee to you. You have absolutely nothing to lose by doing this. So just a few things to share with you. Just a few mindset ideas on this. If all this did, everything that I showed you, if all this did was get each producer to increase their book by only 50,000, and by the way, that's only 50,000. We do much more than that in working with producers that are really committed, right? And how we help them. But just by that, would that be worth it for $497 a month? I certainly hope so. If all this did was improve your communication, remember high performance teams, right? And with that, your retention level by 3 points, 3%, would it be worth it? I certainly hope so. If all this did was improve your operating profits to 30%, that's the financial model that we talk about and we help agencies with, is a 30% operating profit. And we go, oh my gosh. And by the way, that's without contingency. Right? That's just pure operating profit. And by the way, just so you can understand this, and many of you already know this already, but just to reinforce the point of why this business is so great, okay? You may not have any interest in selling your agency. Good for you, that's fine. But your agency value does matter. And every $100,000 in profitability, right? Every $100,000 in profitability is worth 10x in agency value, right? So really every 100,000 is really worth $1 million in agency value. It's really 13 times if you add in the buyouts, but we'll just keep it simple. So if all it did was improve your operating profits of 30%, and I don't know where you're at today, would it be worth it? I certainly would hope so. So there's really three choices of this. There's just three things to consider. Number one is nope, I don't like it. Okay, now if you're still watching this, you don't like it, I don't know why you're still watching this, but we'll still be friends. Okay. Number two is maybe. I don't know. I gotta think about some of these things. Listen, you can go to the website and you can read more things about how the programs work and get some of the detailed agendas if that's what you need to look at. I understand that, but I will share this. All right, there is something really powerful in the world called the law of diminishing intent, and I've learned this a couple different ways, good and bad. Right, the law of diminishing intent. And the law of diminishing intent simply says this: the longer you wait to do something that you know you should do, right? If you're really compelled, going, my gosh, and hopefully I've made this compelling at $497 a month, right? Well, less than you probably pay for lots of other things, right? Monthly, but this is a true investment, a full investment in your team, right? And you go, well, I know I should do this, but right, the law of diminishing intent says this: the longer you wait to do something you know you should do, the less likely it is that you'll ever actually do it. And I mentioned before, and I mean this from our heart, all of our hearts at Sitkins, is that we know it's been a tough year. We want to help your agency get the best results they've ever had in your life, right? And continue those moving forward. So if you're uncertain, yeah, you can do some fact finding. I'm going to answer some questions here in a minute, but don't allow something that's so impactful to slide away and you forget about it. And the last one is let's go. Right? Let's go. We're ready to go. I know some of you have already signed up and watching this. We're getting a multitude of signups already. We're excited about this. Again, it's only going to be to the first 100, so don't wait. And you can go to this to learn more about that. So these are all of our programs. Again, the 4 training programs: sales, service, sales leadership, and agency leadership, the Better Way Agency, our tools and resources, our monthly meetings in sales and service and leadership, and our community forum and app, all part of the all-inclusive model, right? So again, these 4 tiers. If you have any questions, let us know. We're here to help you, walk you through this. We want to make this the easiest check, the easiest EFT, whatever it is that you ever write, because you're getting such a return on your time. You're getting such a return on your money. One thing that I did not mention earlier, I need to now, is that if you do pay in full, and some of you may want to pay in full, you want to make that commitment. By the way, you don't have to commit to a year, okay? There's no year commitments. We don't have that. But if you do want to commit to a year and know, hey, this is a no-brainer, let's do this, we give you 1 month for free, right? So if you're willing to make that commitment to say, listen, I'm going to pay annually, we're going to do this for at least a year, we're going to make sure we give you a slight discount for that commitment, okay? Go to sitkins.com. Now, I want to just share just a couple of things here. I mentioned FAQs. Just the time I have here, I know I've been going for a while. We've gotten a lot of questions just talking about this with different people about, what would questions that agencies be asking? What are some questions that agency leaders have been asking? There's 3 that I want to answer here. Again, if you've got more questions, go to our site, you can contact us, but just some basic things. First is how is the program structured? I think, when we're asked that question, it's the overall program. And then I think the programs themselves. So I want to answer both of those. The overall program is that we are going to have, I mentioned the monthly meetings. Those are ongoing, no brainer. But the programs themselves run about every quarter. Okay. So every quarter we're going to be running, or at least three times a year at a minimum. We're going to be running our producer camp. We're going to be running our account manager camp. We're going to be running our sales leadership camp. We're going to be running our leadership camp. So again, you don't have to do them all at once. You can, but you can find what's the right flow for you and your timing and the timing for your people. Okay. And we're also going to do our best to make sure that your team is very comfortable going into these things as you start that process. So that's how the overall program is structured. Again, the monthly meetings. I know our sales meeting is typically the first Monday of each month. These are all going to be recorded. So as much as we're going to ask you to be here live for so many reasons, for the impact, for the Q&A, for the roundtables, if you miss a session of any kind, they're recorded. So you can go back and we'll have those for a while. We may not keep them forever because they're big files, but you'll have access if you miss a session for a while to go back and catch up and watch that. And again, if you miss it, we're going to run another program soon and you can join that unlimited as much as you want. As far as the programs themselves, these are typically weekly programs. The producer fit is 8 weeks long. The account manager is 6. The CRO, the chief revenue, is 4 sessions. And the CEO bootcamp is 5. So they're typically weekly. However, if there's a holiday or something that comes up or a conflict, there may be an off week in there as we develop the calendar. Okay. So that's how that works. Again, we have a lot of open interaction. Roger and myself are going to be teaching the majority of these programs to you. Then we're also going to be doing Q&A and we're doing breakout sessions, as I mentioned several times before. So hopefully that answers the question that we typically hear about the programs. But again, if you have more questions, let us know. How long is the commitment? Hopefully I addressed this. Again, we give you a month off if you do a year commitment, but there's no contract, okay? You're not locked in for anything. We so much believe in the value you're going to get from your team going through this, that we want to make it to where you couldn't possibly imagine getting away from these monthly calls and the programs and adding more people and the peer community, right? All those things, access to our tools. Like we want to make it to where you go, for this amount, why would I ever leave that? It's providing too much value. So there's no annual commitment necessarily. We want to get you in and provide as much value to make it just seem like you never would want to leave. So that's our commitment to you. The last question we have here is, can I sign up later? Obviously, we're doing this big announcement here in December of 2020. Can you sign up later? Yes, of course you can. We're going to be having this ongoing, continue to grow this program as we move forward. But don't forget, just the first 100 are going to get this pricing. After this, it's going to go up. So last thing I'm going to add is this. There are a lot of things going on in the world. You have a lot of things going on in your agency. We've done everything in our power to make this simple, right? Easy for your entire team to access world-class information, proven information that isn't just information. It's transformation, right? It's transformation to engage your team in a unique process of growth and development and to allow every single client-facing member of your team to have access to the programs. Not saying, what are they doing? What are they doing? How can they get that? How can that? Everybody has an opportunity. And I can promise you, when you engage in this, your agency will flourish. Your agency will 3x. So thank you so much for your time. We'll talk to you soon. Hope to see you in AIM and be part of our movement.